find yourself turning away from conflict, almost as if as soon as it starts, you lose your words or you're not exactly sure how to respond? A part of you is frozen inside? A lot of the times, it's very important to consider this body response has been a way of keeping you safe when you were in your childhood. Likely, you grew up with a family member who was quick to lose their temper with you, that if you stepped out of line or talked back, there was hell to pay. When conflict erupts at your house, are you quick to lose your words? Does a part of you shut down or even freeze? What we want to recognize is so much of that body response comes from our childhood. And the clients I've worked with over the years, often they grew up in a household where there was no room for their argument, no room for talking back, and they got no practice with being able to communicate a difference of opinion. And so now when that comes up in their relationship, there's this place of freeze. I'll be made wrong, I'll be talked over, I won't be able to hold my ground. The trouble with this in long term relationship is the more we forego conflict, the more we're focused on not rocking the boat, the more that builds up over time. The most secure and healthy relationship is actually one that has a whole balance of rupture and repair. Now, why we're not taught this stuff at school and why we only learn it when our relationship is at a stress point, gosh, that's a video for another time. But you can learn it now. If you've been caught in this cycle of having conflict come up, this feeling of it's all erupted and now I don't know how to manage it, the first thing we've got to work with is the body memory of what shut you down in the first place, to give you the wherewithal and the capacity to be with the tension, to not let it set off all those alarm bells and kind of take your language away, take your point of reference for what you want to share, whatever the conflict is about, so that instead of being silenced, instead of having this tension point be pushed under the rug, only to break out at another point. Just sharing this with you, a couple that I worked with comes to mind. They'd been married for over 12 years, they had two young kids, and there was still so much love inside of their marriage. And yet she had decided to leave the relationship because she didn't know how to handle conflict. He was one of those people that felt that he had to get loud and boisterous to be heard, and this shut her down even further. We had started working together when she had already made the decision, no, I'm leaving this relationship. When we started to look at the background, meaning each other's family of origin and how that came in to kind of collide and make this perfect storm, we were then able to understand why they got so off track, why things got so dysregulated and completely a mess whenever conflict would come to pass. And of course, any of us that have been in long-term relationship knows that can be pretty often. Kids, life, stress, work, it can be a real perfect storm. And so until we know how to talk about what's going on for us, how to be honest and clear, regardless of how our spouse might take it, to risk sharing that honesty, we can get stuck in a similar situation where we believe it'll be easier just to leave. But I can promise you, it will be recreated in the next partnership if you're not able to learn how to deal with conflict, if you're not able to grow that capacity inside of yourself to have difficult conversations. And thankfully, it's a skill that can be learned. Thankfully, inside of this case that I was just referencing, they found their way to healthy communication. They were able to repair years and years of hurt, the buildup of resentment that was pretty much at the ceiling. They were able to unpack it, to get back on track. And that when fresh conflicts came up, they were able to address it. Maybe it wasn't always perfect, but it was much better than avoidance, withdrawal, shutdown, and being able to really access what needed to be said so they could move forward together.